everyone. Today we have a new program, Unknown History, and we are going to discuss a lot of interesting topics today. This is our first episode, and it's Basma Izzat from Natral TV. Welcome to our show. Let me introduce to you our guests, Mr. Ayhan Özcembit. Welcome to our program.
Thank you very much.
Our program will talking about unknown history places, unknown history events, starting from Turkey, Istanbul, maybe about Africa, and it's related to Turkey, Osmani Empire era, and story world too. So, Mr. Ayhan, let me introduce you as investigator, historical who writes a book about.
That one.
Yeah, this book is talking about unknown historical events. It's first time to be written like this book, right?
That's right. And they, in the schools, for instance, in Turkey, they taught us Istanbul was conquered in 1453.
Yes.
But they didn't teach us the reflection of the conquest of Istanbul to the world history. Istanbul conquest is stopping and the closing one era in the history and opening a new era. But
right.
Why? Unfortunately, this question was not asked at schools.
Till time.
Yeah, and the reasons. We need reasons, right? If Istanbul was conquered by Sultan Muhammad II, we have right to know the results of Istanbul's conquest, right? Especially Sultan's teacher, Akşemseddin, he played a great role in the conquest.
So that's why our program are talking about unknown history.
Yeah.
That's unknown.
We are going
something
to
never be written, never be cleared before.
Asked question,
yes,
non-asked questions.
Non-asked
We are going to
questions
ask
before.
these questions.
Yes. So can you tell us, or tell the audience, our program, how it could be?
We are going to explain the beyond the events, what happened really. And we have to know these events and the reflections also, as I explained before. For instance, Prophet Muhammad the Messenger, he was not accepted in Taif city. He was stoned. We
Even
know
in
this.
Mecca?
He was stoned in Taif. He was not accepted. He was a persona non grata in Mecca, but he had to go to Medina. And no one asked this question. Why Medina accepted Prophet Muhammad very easily, not other cities? What is the reason of this beyond everything? We can find really good results and reasons about this, but generally we don't like thinking deeply and detailedly. And this program is going to give some clues about those details and reasons, results about that. We will force the audience and our watchers, lookers, to think about this. This is our main purpose with the unknown history, unknown historical events.
We spot on some events.
Yes, especially Istanbul, for instance. Istanbul is the most important European city because Istanbul is in between two continents, like Cairo.
Yes.
Cairo is in between Egypt. Egypt is between Africa and Asia. And Turkey also is in between Asia and Europe. And Istanbul is the key point here. And Istanbul was just like an island city inside of Ottoman Empire. Byzantine Empire,
in the heart of the
in the heart of Ottoman Empire. It was really hard to take it. And Akşemseddin, the teacher of Sultan Muhammad II, he convinced Sultan to conquer the biggest and the marvelous city in the world.
So we have two things, talking about Istanbul and its importance in Ottoman Empire era.
Yeah.
And first, we have to come back to the background of this event. You mentioned Saadeddin, Sheikh Saadeddin.
Akşemseddin.
Akşemseddin.
Akşemseddin means...
Let us know more about him.
Akşemseddin means, in Turkish language, Ak means white.
White.
Ak Shams, Shams is sun. Şemseddin means the son of
the
religion, white son of the religion. Yeah. And he illuminated really the Sultan, Akşemseddin. You know, he was like really son, because he had a lot of knowledge and he taught Sultan a lot of things as well. He was a very clever person. Sultan was only 20 years old boy.
And this teacher?
When he conquered Istanbul. But his teacher was, of course, older. And after the conquest of Istanbul, he did very important thing. He sent all the books of Roman Empire, Byzantine Empire, to Italy.
Why?
This is a very important question. Why? Why Akşemseddin sent Istanbul's books library to Italy? What is the reason of this? Why he sent these books? These books are the key, really key role of the European Renaissance and the reforms normally. Who read these books? Da Vinci, he was born on the 15th of April 1452, just 1 year before the conquest. He was a very brave person. He was Aries. His horoscope was Aries. Yes. He was very brave. Sultan Muhammad II also, he was Aries. Interesting. They were brave. Yes. And Da Vinci, he secretly entered inside of the library in Italy to read the books of Istanbul, Constantinople. And he read those books secretly. While he was reading those books, two soldiers saw while he was reading. They tried to catch him, but he ran away. And just before he ran away, one of the soldiers asked, "Why do you read those books? Are you a Turkish spy?" And this is a very important point, because Pope and Catholic mentality was over the ignorance those days. Pope was doing and saying, "Come on," and all the European Catholics following and making a huge army and fighting against Turks as crusaders. They were coming very easily. And Akşemseddin planned sending those books, illumination of Europe, because he knew if he sends those books to Europe, they are going to read those books. After reading those books, there's going to be a very big illumination in European history. Who started this? Da Vinci. Because he read those books first and he revealed all of them. And as soon as he got out of the library in Italy, after reading those books, he rewrote those books again as if he wrote himself. Normally, Da Vinci didn't create those things by himself. After reading those things, he was enlightened, he was illuminated. Then he translated those books into Italian language, in the other European languages as well. Then other people in Europe started reading those books, and a very big illumination started in whole Europe. This is Renaissance, this is reform in Europe, really. And the biggest reflection of Istanbul's conquest is this point. And in fact, some historians say the Europeans got this illumination not only in Istanbul, but also in Spain, and also the Crusaders' raid to Anatolia a long time ago. They are right a little bit, but not much, because Crusaders came to Middle East. They learned a lot of things from the Muslims. For instance, they were burying their dead, you know, without covering or without any ceremony, without respecting. They were burning. but they learned how to bury their dead after seeing Muslims. There's a word in English language, coffin. Coffin word comes from Arabic kafan.
Yes.
It's a kafan they learned from Muslims, and they started doing the same thing, respecting the dead after that period. Even Salamun Alaikum. In Jewish, Shalom Aleichem. But in today, when we look Central Europe, especially in Austria, they say Grüß Gott, which means Salamun Alaikum in German language. How did they learn this? Of course, they learned with the Crusaders' raid when they come to Jerusalem long time ago, Al-Quds.
Yes.
They learned many things. This was a big light, but it didn't affect very much.
Why did it affect so much?
Because people were not reading a lot, and printing machine was not invented yet, because the books were not spreading everywhere. If you have book, but you can't print it, that's printing machine, publishing
was it so easy?
Really important thing.
Yes.
And especially when we go to Spain also, the Muslims started also golden era that time. Muslims were reading very much. If anyone walking on the streets with the books, they were saying in Spain, a Muslim, reading. And this kind of illumination also helped Spain, but not very much. I told you, because of the reason, the printing machine. Jan Gutenberg, he invented printing machine before the these events, after these events. Then the Istanbul books reproduced again very easily. The Da Vinci's books were read by other people. They started inventing some other things. That is why Da Vinci is a very important name for learning. Even today, there is a name, Da Vinci Learning channel, television channel. It's always talking about science and scientific things. Another one is Martin Luther. He was born after conquest of Istanbul, and he translated Bible into German language. This was another part of the Renaissance and the reforms, because this way opened a wonderful way to gain knowledge, illumination, and Europe started having good steps in science, in everything, because religiously they started stepping good way. Protestantism, for instance. Today, when we look Europe, the north part of Europe is Protestant, south part of Europe is Catholics, and the western part of Europe, eastern part of Europe is Slavian Orthodox mostly. And when we look three places, and the most developed area is the Protestant area, comparing the southern part of Europe. Why? Because Protestantism is open for the science mostly. And even today, Catholicism need new reforms, and this is closing their minds on some ways. Really, I'm not Catholic or Protestant, or I'm not making advertisement of any religion. I'm just telling what I found sociologically and historically, and I share it with my book and also this television program. And Martin Luther did this, and the European involvement, European science and reforms, Renaissance, got higher and higher. Turkey and the Islamic world needed this kind of reforms and Renaissance.
Yes.
And the Ottoman Empire, after the conquest of Istanbul, unfortunately went down.
Yeah, let me first finish this point. Conquest of Istanbul was important to Europe. as I know from you now. It's also important for Arab world and Islamic world.
That's right. According to sources, when we look the Prophet Muhammad's hadith, he tells, he praises soldiers and the commander of the conqueror of Istanbul in a hadith, and
he said Constantinople will be opened by a very, very strong and encouraging.
Exactly. And this was a key point also to lead Muslims to take.
Let first tell the people that Constantinople is Istanbul, but it is old name in Arabic.
Exactly. In Arabic,
does it have any meaning?
Constantinople name comes from Constantine, the emperor. Constantine the emperor is the first Christian emperor of Romans, Eastern Romans, I mean Byzantine Empire. And he was originally Albanian. And he became the emperor of Roman Empire. And he accepted Christianity first time. And he made Istanbul Nova Roma. That means New Rome. Nova Roma means New Rome. And the Istanbul started going up with Constantine, the emperor. And that is why the name Constantinopolis comes from this name, the Constantine. The city of Constantine, that means. But in time, people said Constantinople. Constantinopolis turned to Constantinople turned to Constantinople. Constantinople, people couldn't say this, Turks, among the Turks. They couldn't say Constantinople. They said Istanbul. Istanbul means there is big Islam. There is big Islam inside Istanbul, but so that it turned to Istanbul lastly. So this is the evolution of Istanbul name coming from Constantinopolis. Still today, some countries, such as Greece, they still say Constantinopolis. Constantinople, they say. I went to Greece 3 times, and I have seen some traffic signs, and it was writing Constantinopolis 500 kilometers something. And also they put the eagle of Byzantine Empire, that eagle symbolizing also Istanbul, because it has got 2 heads of the eagle. One is turning the right side, other one is turning the left side, eagle. That is reflecting Istanbul, because Istanbul has got 2 faces. One of them is Europe, other one is Asia. So this symbol is today used by some countries. From Russia, Russian state arm is still the same with the same eagle, and also Montenegro they use. Even Albania and some cities in Turkey, like Çorum city, and as far I know, I remember some football clubs, Konyaspor and the Elazığspor and the Erzurumspor, they use the same symbol, but this symbol really comes from Istanbul and the Byzantine Empire. Even Selçuklu, the Turkish Empire, used the same symbol very long time. Even Turkish police has got that eagle under the crescent and the star. That one, that comes exactly from Istanbul. And Istanbul was important because this in between the 2 continents, also not only 2 continents, also between 2 important seas, Black Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, and the controlling very many big area. And Napoleon Bonaparte said something about Istanbul. He said, if the world was one big country, Istanbul would be the capital of that world. Capital of that country. He was right, Without Istanbul, you can't control very well the Black Sea area, Aegean Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea. And we are very lucky having this city. But I must tell something important about history. Prophet Muhammad, in Hendek War, you know, in Medina,
yes.
They were digging around of the city. They were
to protect themselves from
to protect
enemy.
the city. They were digging and
yes.
they were making a holes.
This idea came from a Persian person, right?
Salman bin Farisi, yes. He was a Persian man. And he gave this idea to protect the city, and the Muslims were digging. And while they were digging, they couldn't break a big stone. It was a very big stone. And they called Prophet Muhammad what to do about that. He recited Bi-Ismi Allah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He hit the stone 4 times. In the first hit, where the big spark went to, when you hit the stone, you get some sparks,
yes.
ignitions. Went to the east first. And the second time, they went to the north. And the thirdly, west and the south. They asked this question, why these ignitions went to 4 directions. He said, Inshallah, someday Islam is going to spread
all over the
east to the Iran, north to the Constantinople, Byzantine Empire, till Constantinople, and maybe more. And the west is Cairo, Egypt and Africa, northern Africa. And south is Yemen and Oceania. And this idea gave me an idea about Kaaba and finding the directions of the Kaaba and the meaning of 4 life elements. We did the program before.
About astrology.
About astrology.
Things, yes.
And this helped me also. But Prophet Muhammad gave the good news about the conquest of Istanbul a long time ago, while digging around of the city of Medina, and Istanbul was going to be taken. It is the first message that time. And
you related between 2 things, Prophet Muhammad era,
coming from that area.
Yes, and Constantinople
and
era.
Imagine, please, those days Muslims were
2 important events in
exactly.
Muslims' world
And those days Muslims were defending Medina, only Muslim city in the world, just one city. Medina means city.
Yes, we have talking about.
They were trying to defend and protect the city. And the Prophet Muhammad was giving the message of the world conquest over a stone. It is very interesting, because Muslims only few people in Medina. And
how can they imagine that Islam will separate it all over the world?
He gave an idea and a vision for the Muslims, how can it go? And why we can't do these things today? What is the wall which is preventing us? That is very important, and the key point, I can say, illumination. Quran says, read in the name of God. He's the most merciful and compassionate, he says. But we don't read. Read doesn't mean only reading this. Reading life. Reading, understanding, trying to understand, trying to find the beyond everything. In Arabic language, you say hikmah. Hikmah, that
the knowledge of this.
Beyond the knowledge. We must collect all the knowledges, and in the logic combination we must find. We must think also whys and what fors and the reasons. These are going to take us a wonderful knowledge road.
Yes.
First Muslims were trying to do this exactly, but later they stopped this. They stopped reading, they stopped learning, because we followed some people, you can call sheikh or some other things.
Without thinking.
Yeah, those were saying, oh, come on, come to me, they were saying. And they were taking your brain and putting here, you don't think, you only believe. But this doesn't work. We must start thinking again, learning again, finding the results again. We must start our reforms and renaissance, Islamic renaissance. Once again, we can do this.
Yes.
Because we did before.
Yes,
and Istanbul is very key point here. And living in Istanbul is really different than the living in Ankara or some other places.
Yeah, sure, we are going to talk about this.
Yeah.
And another interesting topics, we still have a lot of it, about unknown historical events, unknown historical places, maybe. Stay with us, we have a small commercial break, then we will come back to you again. Welcome back. Now we have talked about a new topic about historical events. We talked about Istanbul and what is important to the historical world and Islamic world, that kind of things. We also are going to talk about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Yeah, that's right.
Can we ask, how can we know that he is a real messenger? Is this a suitable question we can ask?
Yeah. As I told before, I was atheist and I asked this question by myself, and I found interesting things about his life, and I was sure that he was a messenger after reading his life, really, because he's the most important historical figure in the world history, Prophet Muhammad. And he was an orphan. He lost his parents when he was young. And also, he was an Arab. He had Arabic culture and the Badawi culture in that era. How they were like, you know, those days, Badawis, if you do any bad thing to any Badawi Arab in that area, he was trying to take the revenge back from you. The revenge was a very important thing. Yeah. And this kind culture. Of, even camels, you know, camels are also never forget what you do, and what they never forget, and they try to take the revenge also. Ibn Arabi, he's Ibn al-Arabi also, he was born in Spain. He says the Arabs like taking revenge very much because they are eating camel meat. And they have this kind of
culture.
Culture from what they eat. And also the Turks, they were eating horse meat, and they were always going some other places and migrating all the time. He was explaining in his books. Anyway,
what orphan means?
Orphan means someone who has no. Islamically, orphan means anyone who is helpless. When you have not only
lost your
parents. For instance, when you are in the desert and you lost your money, everything, you are also orphan-like because you are helpless. The yatim, orphan, is a general meaning. Anyone in the world who needs help, really, that he's an orphan or she's an orphan. We must help him or her. And the Prophet Muhammad's parents, they were not Muslim. They were believing in the religion of Abraham. and they died before the Islam started when Prophet Muhammad.
They changed.
Maybe they were not going to convert to Islam, and and also being an orphan means you feel free really, because when you are orphan, you're not going to take the impose of the society very much. So when we look also the life of Prophet Muhammad, he is the person who has got the minimum Badawi and Arab culture, just because of this reason. Because there was no one control, no parents, imposing the culture on him. Only grandfather, uncle. They are a little bit in distance, to give this imposing the culture mostly, and he was feeling free. And when he was 40, he was doing one thing, going to the mountain, and he was thinking there. And
meditation.
Hira, the name of the cave, Hira. Hira means in Arabic language, it means searching. So if I had a engine for searching engine and website, I was going to www.hira.com. It was going to be very good to find something, because it's searching, trying to find it. Inshallah, someday Muslims are going to do any searching engine like Google, and they name as Hira in the future. Anyway, Prophet Muhammad was always going there and going out of the city's unjust things and the dirt of the city in the Mecca, because the city was in very bad situation. The little girls were killed and those kind of things. Yeah. And he was running to the cave in the night time and spending time and speaking to the God. He already believed in God, because Arabs believed in God those days, but they were only mushriks.
From Prophet Abraham.
Yeah, from the Prophet Abraham the Prophet. They were following Abraham the Prophet religion, but also they believed idols. What is idol? Idol means you believe in God, but you put something between God and you. This can be anything, not only a statue, but it can be money. If you can't share it, that is, your money is your idol. Because you are greedy, you can't give, because Satan tells, come on, don't give it. You did everything, come on, you're a rich man.
It could be also religion man or religion people.
And Prophet Muhammad was listening yourself and listening his head, and he's educating himself by thinking. When he was 40, and the angel Gabriel came and brought the message. And yatim and being motherhood is very important in Islam. What is the motherhood? Motherhood in Arabic language means ummu. Ummu. And the ummu means mother, but also Prophet Muhammad's nickname is Al-Amin.
Yes.
Al-Amin. Al-Amin means also anyone who is trustable. And the trust word in Arabic language comes from mother, ummu. And the Prophet Muhammad was like already a person who's like mother, helping other people. He was not hitting any child, or he was very soft-hearted, kind-hearted to the Zayd bin Haris, and everyone liked him very much because he
treated him as his son.
Exactly, he was a gentleman. He was the gentleman of the city, the most gentleman of the city. That is why people liked him. And normally Islam tries to make a Muslim man a gentleman and a Muslim woman a lady, speaking in the good way and not tough way, speaking with the people softly and walking on the streets modestly. We can read and understand this kind of gentleman and the elegant, wonderful verses in Quran, really.
Yes.
We can see it if we try to understand really. And Prophet Muhammad was also Arab. Sometimes this was coming from his behaviors. For instance, Hamza was killed in Uhud war.
His uncle.
His uncle. he liked his uncle very much. They were together, and they were grown up together. They were like brothers, more than
he was
uncle
more,
and nephew.
yes, more than
because they were nearly the same age.
Yes.
And he loved his uncle very much. When he saw his uncle was killed, not only killed but also in a very bad way, Muawiyah's mother, Hind, gave money to Wahshi, a soldier.
Yes,
he cut Hamza's nose and cheeks and the lips
and took his liver, I think.
He put on all these things in a rope and gave to Hind, and he put on his neck as a necklace. Can you believe it? And the Prophet Muhammad saw his uncle there, and he got furious. He was Aries also. Aries people are very angry when lose their control. And he said, "You are going to do all the dead body of the mushriks," he said, because he lost himself, and he turned to revenge, taking Arabic person.
Yes.
And suddenly Gabriel came and said, "No, you can't do it, Muhammad. If you do it, you can do only one body. But if you forgive, this is going to be great for you," he said.
That's why he's a prophet.
And we understood from here that if he was a liar, if he was a lying prophet, he was going to take his own revenge. And from that time, all the owners of the dead bodies will say, "Oh, you see, he's not a prophet. He took revenge," they would say. But they said, "No. He's a real prophet. He didn't take revenge. He didn't touch our body." Yeah, he forgave those things. Even Hind, he forgave Hind.
I think she became Muslim.
Yes,
later,
she became
right?
Muslim. That's right. But in Arabic society those days, the fascism is very high. If you have a tribe, you believe your tribe is the highest. Asabiyya. It's a kind of discriminative ideology, and you believe your race and your tribe is the highest all around the world. And the Hind and also his family was Umayyah tribe, and they believed they are at the top over the Hashimi tribe.
Over the society.
Yeah, that is why they were fighting also. They didn't want to accept Prophet Muhammad's messages because they said, "Oh, Hashimi tribe found a prophet. How are we going to find a prophet or messenger from now on?" they said. It's interesting. They believed that he is a messenger, but they were sad not finding a prophet from their tribe.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
So, without knowing those time, culture, beliefs, these kind of things, we cannot understand. Then I understood here at this point, no, he was not a liar, he was real messenger. And when we look at his personality, and the Abduhu and Rasuluhu, historical figure, the greatest historical figure, his name is Abduhu and Rasuluhu. Abduhu is the first.
The first, before we become a messenger, he is...
exactly. Abduhu means servant.
Servant of God.
Servant and the slave are two different things.
Yes, of course.
And the servant means he does everything voluntarily, come from the heart.
Yeah,
but the slave means he does everything not wishing and doing. And some years ago in Turkey, they did Rabia. One of them wrote. It was very popular those days. It was writing. For us, the freedom is to be slave of the Lord of the universe. He was saying. I said no. I shared an article about that. We are going to be free by being servant, not slave.
Actually, that's make you more free.
Yeah, exactly. Because you do it voluntarily. You know the necessity of those things. Namaz, praying, is good for body movement, exercise every day, and also keeping you good mood psychologically. You try to forget everything about the world and you get connected to the Lord of the universe. This is a wonderful thing, really. And the Ramadan fast, when you are hungry, you remember the Africans in the west of Kaaba and you try to help them. Turkey now is helping a lot of African brothers in Sudan and Somalia,
yes,
opening water wells and helping them.
And make a lot of projects.
A lot of projects.
Like NGOs and this kind of things.
We love them very
yes,
much.
Yes.
In our hearts, we have a great sympathy to African people. Yes. Because we always loved them. In Turkey also, there are a lot of Africans in western part of Turkey near Izmir. They have village and they are colored Africans. They are living there for centuries. They speak Turkish fluently. They are Turk now, but they are mainly African race. They are our brothers and sisters. In our country. There is no any discrimination for our brothers.
We're going to talk about this topic.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know someone, Musa, the Sudanese Musa.
Sudanese, yeah. Musa the Sudanese.
Who make a very important role in the
exactly.
war.
He was the greatest Ottoman agent in the history. Inspiring person, really.
Independence war.
He's a hero, really. He's a big hero in Ottoman Empire era. Yes. He was Sudanese, and he's a great person.
He actually is unknown person. I tried to read about him. In Arabic sources, it's not mentioned, you know. So we are going to talk about him.
Yeah, inshallah. But you know, unfortunately, Istanbul was occupied by British Empire a long time ago, and very important books and some sources were taken to England, London, and also this not happened to Turkey. Also, yeah, this happened to also other centers in Islamic centers such as Cairo or Egypt or other Arabic. Yeah, unfortunately, our sources were taken to London, and the greatest book about Prophet Muhammad was written in English language by Martin Links. He was a British Muslim now. His name is Abu Bakr Sirajuddin now. He wrote Prophet Muhammad's book. I recommend our watchers, followers, the reading Prophet Muhammad's book, written by Martin Links, a marvelous book really. It's telling every detail, starting from Abraham the Prophet till the death of Prophet Muhammad. It's a very important book to ask wise and find the answers.
That's amazing. Coming back to Prophet Muhammad and Muhammad II, Fatih.
Yeah.
What's the relation between them?
Prophet Muhammad was an Aries person. He was Aries.
Yes.
And he was brave. He was fearless. And Muhammad II was also Aries. He was fearless. The Sultan. And Da Vinci was Aries.
But he wasn't Muslim.
Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci, he was Aries,
yes,
and he was fearless. And these three personalities who changed the world's history were Aries.
Yes.
This is not coincidence, because courage is very important. We must be courageous with the logic. Any coward mind can't do anything. We mustn't be coward. We must be courageous. And they were very courageous and attempting doing something. They believed to do something. If we don't believe, and if we don't have courage in our heart, we can't do anything. And this is the biggest relation between Prophet Muhammad and Muhammad II. They had very similar personality.
They have a similar personality.
Yeah, very similar personality.
How many years between them?
Prophet Muhammad was born in after Jesus, 571, Anno Domini, yes, 571, and he died in 632. Fatih, Sultan Fatih, the Muhammad II. He was born around 1433. those years, those era, and a very long time. But Prophet Muhammad II, the conqueror, his biggest aim was to take Istanbul just for the sake of Muhammad the Prophet. Yeah, he said, I am going to conquer Istanbul, or Istanbul is going to conquer me.
Isn't it amazing? So, because he was just 22 years old.
Sorry?
I mean Sultan Fatih. Just 22 years old.
22 years old, exactly. He was a very young boy, but he was educated very well by Akşemseddin. He learned everything from him. And he spoke Greek language very well. Those days, Greek was English, today's English. Yes. If you didn't know any Greek or Arabic languages, you were not going to be intellectual those days. Any Muslim intellectual was learning Arabic in Turkey, learning Arabic, Persian, and the Greek languages.
Most three important languages.
Of course, because the books in the libraries were in Greek, in Arabic, or in Persian language. So you had to learn these three languages. Otherwise, you were not going to enter of the illumination of science or some other things. And when we look, Ibn Sina, he is the greatest scientist also in the world history, yes. Especially in medical things. He defined a lot of marvelous things. Muslims found a lot of things. Zero was invented by Al-Khwarizmi. He invented this zero. We can talk also in one topic about his life and the finding zero. Why he discovered zero? That is a very key point. Because Quran tells divide the share of the orphans, the zakah, the money must be given to the poor, those in need, and the specific rates. So you had to improve mathematics, otherwise you can't share it very well. So Muslims had to define zero. And that zero is very important for not only for mathematics, for physics, also for the world science. And this barakah, this wonderful science, is coming from Al-Khwarizmi, really. Yeah. And it's a pity, I'm very sad, we Muslim world must start again our illumination. We must have new Khwarizmis, new Ibn Sinas, new Ali Kushchu, or some others, Akşemseddins. But we don't have now. Why?
Why?
Because we stopped reading and thinking. That's very important. We are turning around of Kaaba. Why we turn around of Kaaba? 360 degrees. What is the message of turning around? Muslim, don't look at from the one angle. Look from the 360 degrees and define that thing very well. 7 times we are turning around of Kaaba, but we couldn't define what Kaaba's message.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
We open a lot of interesting topics. Yeah. Our next episode, inshallah, it will be more interesting things to discover.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching us. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Follow us next week, and we are going to talk about more interesting things about historical, unknown historical events. See you next week. Have a good day.